Hey, Tamara Williams here with Tamara Williams and Company. And today I wanted to do a drop down on new construction and development. So in 2023 is definitely a different makeup than what we saw in 2022. And I wanted to outline that based upon my experience and kind of the trends that I'm forecasting based upon inventory or lack thereof, and then new potential development. So in 2022, obviously the market shifted a great deal, and there were really defined locations on where builders could build. So that left them in Woodland Park, kind of infilling in Flanders Mill, obviously Grand Cielo and White Horse Ranch. And then they were over in Prescott Ranch and I want to say Bridger Heights, if my memory serves me right. And in a lot of those developments, because they were so dense and there was market volatility, you had longer days on market. And one thing about me is I have launched or completely given subdivisions a facelift and new addition. So I helped launch a subdivision off Pepine called Woodland Park. And that one is going to be a massive subdivision. I have sold so many homes in that neighborhood. I did an addition in the Crossing subdivision where I helped, we were the developers and we added on a new phase. I totally obliterated the current market over there. We took a $700,000 price range and I bumped it up to a $1.5 million price range. There had been nobody even near that price range prior to my building and time. And then I did another one called Pleasant Valley, which was a $1.5+ million subdivision in Bozeman. And each subdivision was very different. In Woodland Park, there was one and a few other builders that were building, and there was limited inventory, high demand. In the Crossing subdivisions, we only had one builder, which was us at the time, and we completely restricted the number of units that were going up. So that way we could try and leverage the price point. Same thing with the Crossing. But in the buildings and developments I've been a part of this last year, which is still Woodland Park and some other ones in town, I was no longer necessarily a part of the developers' plan, and I was just an individual builder going in by saying builder. I was a real estate agent helping the builder develop plans for our investors and forecast what was needed, interior, exterior finishes, and overall margins that developers could expect. This time around, inventory totally grew and demand stopped. Now, I can tell you for what I'm forecasting, obviously the summer new construction inventory, that is going to go way down. And that's only because everybody was sitting on their beautiful inventory over the holidays and they didn't want to get over leveraged because they still have a whiplash from the 2008 market crash. And so everybody this time around is still very cautious. Now, this fall, everything is going to be a different makeup in terms of the land offerings out there. There is some big projects going on. There's a massive land project going on in Gaston Gateway. There is the massive project in between Bozeman and Belgrade. There's some out in Four Corners. There's some on Southside Bozeman. There's some massive projects in downtown Bozeman. I think we're going to have a really good buyer opportunity later in the year. And unless people totally restrict the number of people coming into those subdivisions, the builders entering into those markets are not going to be as excited. So you have to come up with a strategy. That is more affordable construction, so smarter construction. That way you can have some, flexibility in your potential price range and, strategic pricing with some of your suppliers, or you're just going to take almost little to none profit margins. And that's one thing that I always look at with my contractors, my investors, etc., because I always want to make sure people can make as much money as possible. Now, you might say this agent is greedy, she's ruining Bozeman, but the truth of the matter is, if somebody spends $500,000 to $700,000, they're not going to want to make $5,000 to $10,000. That is called being terrified. And there's no point in spending a year and a half, 2 years of your life going through bankers if you're not going to make any money, because at that point, it's a lot of risk and zero reward. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to outline my experience and some of the projects that I have had my hands in and some of the future ones, and kind of what my investors can look at from me in case anybody ever wants to team up. And if you're a developer wanting to combine forces with me, we have an amazing, even though we're an independent firm, I have international and worldwide exposure. We've used the relationship that we have to get into some very elite programs, and you'll see that by our listings. Like, you don't get our listings unless you know what you're doing. So I'm going to start sharing my knowledge and truth bombs, and